Let the hand that was wounded be the hand that heals, by Valerie Lynn Stevens. Preface. I share this along with all of my other works in the hopes that, despite my dysfunctions and pathologies, I can share a little light and truth with my fellow human beings and help, even if just one person, to feel a little less alone, a little less hopeless, a little less weary. Most relationships for me are brief, but as long as I learn something valuable about myself, I have not completely wasted my time. In fact, that pretty much sums up my philosophy on relationships. They are there not only to quell our ennui, but to aid in our growth, both intrapersonally and interpersonally. A recent fallout in a personal relationship of mine has helped me to realize something more fully about myself, and I am immensely grateful for this experience, for illuminating this for me. I am incapable of sustaining relationships. Not merely unwilling or just not ready yet, I am incapable. Others sometimes console me by saying, maybe you just haven't met the right person yet. And while I appreciate their kindness, my kind values honesty over kindness, namely honesty with myself. And I know myself very well. I have neither the desire nor the need to delude myself about anything, and am a strong individual with no tolerance for abuse or lowering my standards. My earliest parental relationships have molded me, as they have all of us, into a certain kind of person, both for better and for worse. And one of my disabilities or dysfunctions as a person is the inability to sustain long-term relationships. It is just a part of who I am. Although all hope is never lost, for I have taught myself how to work around my limitations and have emerged an even stronger and more capacitated animal than I ever could have been without them. And that is the beauty of adaptation, of course, the kind of a more metaphysical, spiritual sort. Nevertheless, I have also had to make personal sacrifices in order to assume the responsibility of someone who has no business being involved in long-term relationships with others. I just simply do more harm than good whenever I try to let myself have these sorts of things. I will not become the kind of monster that my insides want me to be. Mind you, within every child of God also lies a saint, but I must keep the other at bay if I am to devote myself to the pursuit of truth and light and virtue. I have had to assume upon myself the cloak of lonerhood, if you will, to protect others from my sort of pathology. Psychiatry has designated my particular condition as complex PTSD and schizotypal personality disorder. Schizotypal personality disorder is often thought to be something other than what real and good people who live with it experience it as. The best definition of it that I have heard from another author is that it is an inability to sustain long-term relationships due to having experienced early home environments that were systematically abusive and traumatic in some way. It is classifiable, in part at least, under the category of reactive attachment disorders. Nevertheless, despite my disorders, and we all have at least one of those, I chose to commit myself to a social life philosophy whereby any sacrifice which spares others the horrors and the afflictions of that which was done unto me is well worth any loneliness or existential dissonance which I experience as a part of being my particular kind of beast. Many assume that those who isolate themselves must do so out of a fear of being hurt by others. In some cases, yes, this is so. But in my particular case, I abdicate my throne of commonly accepted and practiced social rituals, etc., in order to protect others from being damaged by me. That whole concept of normalcy is actually just kind of a fantasy for me that I play around with every now and then. I know that is not a scenario that I could actually and successfully thrive or survive within. It's just not who I am, or ever could pretend to be for very long. I just simply cannot bear the sight and the thought of hurting other people when it is within my power to protect them from those broken and dark parts of myself by remaining with them only for a short while. Perhaps that is one of the motives behind God the Father's directive to His Son Jesus Christ to remain with His people only for a perfectly timed duration. Anything or anyone exposed to the ravages of this evil world for long enough will cause even what is good to turn bad. And then I think, but does that mean that I should completely deny myself the same creaturely comforts, such as marriage, etc.? Well, I have already explored that one many a times, and it simply does not change who and what I am. I can only go so far in relationships, period. I have tried that whole fantasy of normalcy on for size. It's just not who I could ever be. I accept myself for all that I am. I've never been one to have a deficiency in that, at least. To all creatures, great and small, our Creator grants our compensations. Because eventually, through enough trials and error, yes, that S on trials was deliberate, we come to realize that, beyond the myth of self-improvement, lies only self-acceptance. Yet we must also not forget to embrace our brokenness, to embrace our wounds, for therein lies our gift. We are all damaged, and in some cases we are just simply damaged beyond repair. Yet though the hand which heals is often the hand which wounds, the hand which wounds must also be given a chance to be the hand that heals. Thus shall I remain, despite my failings with my fellow human beings, willing to at least try, for as long as my nature will allow me. But don't get too attached. It's for your own good.